Howdy, y'all, and welcome to episode 2 of the Barnyard Banter Podcast, where boots meet microphones and agriculture takes center stage.
We're your hosts, Peyton Roberts
and Riley Rinke. We're members of the Axtell FFA chapter, and we're on a mission to bring the ag industry to life. One story, one laugh, and one barnyard tale at a time.
Each episode, we'll be chatting with farmers, ranchers, ag teachers, FFA members, and industry experts that are out there making a difference in the world of agriculture.
Whether you're hauling hay, feeding calves, planting crops, or simply just curious about where your food comes from, this podcast is for you.
So sit back, grab a sweet tea, or hop on the tractor as we dive into the wild, wonderful, and sometimes downright muddy world of agriculture.
Welcome to Barnyard Banter. First off, we want to make a thank you to our amazing guests for joining us today as we take a deep dive into Axtell FFA. Hey Peyton, I think it's time for some trivia. Do you know what year the Axtell FFA was chartered?
Was it 1937?
Ding ding ding, you're the winner. I think that was the year my mom was in school. I'm not sure.
Okay, Riley, let's get back on the subject of our guest. Can you introduce our first guest today?
I would love to. Our first guest is Kennedi Gordon, former Axtell FFA member and chapter president. She is currently enrolled at West Texas A&M University, majoring in animal science. Kennedi, would you go ahead and tell us a little about yourself and what year you graduated from Axtell?
I graduated from Axtell in 2023. Throughout my time in FFA, I was involved in LDEs, CDEs, SDEs, officer positions, as well as raising and exhibiting beef cattle.
Payne, I know this next person holds a special place in your heart, so do us the honor of introducing our second guest for today.
Our second guest is another former Axtell FFA member and president, Lacy Hollingsworth. Lacy, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what year you graduated from Axtell?
So I graduated from Axtell with Riley's mom in 1937. No, it was actually 2000. So I was in FFA all through high school. We started FFA as freshmen back in 1937. In the 1900s. And so I was a chapter president. I was an area vice president for Area 8. Prior to that, I was the Waco District first vice, and I was the Waco District student advisor. So,
all right, now we're going to get to know you a little bit better. Kennedi, what were your FFA roles or involvement while you were in high school?
So throughout my time in FFA in high school, I did LDEs. So I did chapter conducting and agricultural quiz. And then for CDEs, I did horse judging. And I was involved in a district officer position as well as a chapter officer position. And I held chapter president for 2 of those years throughout FFA.
Amazing. Lacy?
So it took a little longer for me to remember these things because it's been 25 years. But I did chapter conducting. I did junior and senior chapter conducting. I did junior quiz. I did junior creed speaking. I did senior radio. So we were the first radio broadcasting team that Axtell had when I was in high school, and we actually wrote the script, and they used that for, I think, like 20 more years. And then as far as CDEs went, I did dairy products judging is what it was called back then. They also called it the milk spitting contest. It was actually pretty gross. We had to try all the different milks, and they were tainted. Like, knowing they were tainted, we had to taste them. I'm not really sure why I signed up for that. I think maybe there were cute boys in the contest. And then I also did prepared public speaking, and then, of course, my officer positions.
Okay, so Kennedi, what got you involved in agriculture and FFA in the first place?
So I come from an agricultural background. My whole family showed, so I think for me it was a kind of like your family did it, so this is something that you do too. And it was something that I was really interested in because I had grown up riding horses, and then I wanted to get into the showing livestock. So that was really my mindset when I went into FFA, is I want to show livestock. And then with the livestock came all the other contests, and my ag teachers were like, hey, you might be interested in trying this. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty interesting, and you're offering me free food. Okay, I'll be there. And so that's pretty much what got me involved in FFA and what started my FFA journey, moving on to what spiked my interest going into my career.
What do you plan to pursue in the future? Like, do you have a set career you're looking for?
Yes, so upon my graduation from West Texas A&M University, I plan on becoming a beef cattle feed sales nutritionist.
Okay, so Lacy, I know you already kind of talked about this, but did you have any other FFA roles or involvement besides what you said? Did you have any other SAE projects, or did you show any livestock or anything like that?
Well, one year I showed rabbits, and it was a huge train wreck. So I did not like animals, and I told my ag teachers that. And I know it's strange, right? I was big in the FFA, but I didn't like animals. I liked the leadership contest, and I liked all those things, and animals kind of freaked me out. But I showed rabbits one year, and that was back when you had to actually breed the breeding pair of rabbits, and it was kind of a traumatic experience. But I ended up making the sale and had a lot of fun. And I actually learned that, okay, animals are okay. And then, as an adult, my sons both showed sheep and goats. And now, kind of my happy place is in the barn. But I grew up on a ranch. I grew up around livestock and that kind of thing. And I always knew, that wasn't really my thing. I was never that farm girl that had the desire to be a vet. That wasn't my thing. But I always wanted to more advocate for farming in the farming community. So,
all right, since y'all both held major roles in FFA, what were some of the lessons you learned while being in those major roles?
I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned is how to take constructive criticism, knowing that you're not perfect and that you'll always have room to grow. And I think that's such an important part for the rest of your life. Is something that you need. And so FFA really helped me grow my mindset and know that I'm not always going to be the best and that I will always have room for improvement.
I tell people all the time that even 25 years later, everything I learned about professionalism and leadership, I learned through my time in the FFA. I was really actually kind of reserved, not around my friends, but around anybody who I didn't really know and that kind of thing before I got into the FFA and held those officer positions and had to go put myself out there and meet people. At the time, Axtell only had one voting delegate, so when I went places, it was me and one other person. And I had to just go make friends. But they taught me how to shake hands, how to make eye contact. All of those leadership camps taught you all of those things about learning people's names, how to remember people's names, and then just how to carry yourself as a professional, how to speak in public, how to strike up a conversation with people that you don't really know. All of those things are things that I learned through summers in leadership camps through the FFA, and it has benefited me greatly in my professional life.
All right. Now we're going to go back in time and look at some memories or experience y'all have encountered in the Axtell FFA. So, Kennedi, what's your favorite memory from your time in Axtell FFA?
My favorite memory from my time at Axtell FFA would either be the time that I won my class at Houston, and all I can hear was one of my friends screaming over everyone else in the crowd. That was a pretty awesome moment. Or when we were driving to a CDE contest in Lubbock, and the wind was really bad that day, and Mr. Bell kept swerving the van all over the place and was about to start crying because he was so scared of the wind.
Lacy, what about you? What was your favorite memory from your time in FFA?
Gosh, I have a lot of them. I remember going to the state FFA convention in Amarillo, and it was just me and my mom and my ag teacher that year because the old ag teacher had retired after my freshman year, and then I was a district officer. So between my freshman and sophomore year, we had to go to state FFA convention in Amarillo, and the new ag teacher had been hired 2 weeks before we were leaving. And so my mom had a van. And so we just picked up the ag teacher in my mom's van, and we all drove on this voyage to Amarillo and got to know each other really fast. And I remember we stopped on the way at a McDonald's to use the bathroom, and I accidentally walked into the men's restroom instead of the women's, and I walked in on a guy going to the bathroom, and I was mortified. And our new ag teacher, who was the ag teacher at Axtell for a long time after that, but he made so much fun of me after that. And then every time we went to a restroom or we stopped somewhere to go to the bathroom, he'd be like, Lacey, make sure you're getting the right one. And so, but I'll always remember that kind of awkward trip that made us become family. So.
Okay, so I know y'all said y'all participated in a lot of different events throughout the years. So out of all the CDs and LDEs and speaking contests, what would you say was your favorite one of those?
My favorite one for sure was chapter conducting. I think it taught you a lot about leadership and how to properly conduct a meeting. And I think that's important when you're going into your career and you're in a meeting room. It teaches you how to properly speak up for yourself, how to bring new ideas to the table, and how to kindly put out your opinion and kind of tell someone why your opinion would be valid. And so it just taught me a lot of leadership skills that you can carry on throughout your life and kind of pass down to people, because it's important to know those.
Lucy, what about you?
Yeah, chapter conducting was the bane of my existence because of all of the different problems. And, you end up with like that one teammate that says something totally off, and you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so I remember getting so frustrated in chapter conducting, but I loved, my favorite one was probably FFA radio is what we called it then. I think now they call it radio broadcasting, but that was my favorite one because it was something new that we were bringing to our school that we had never done before. And this equipment that we're using today is a lot more modern than what we used back then. We had to really make sure we weren't like popping in the mic and making all kinds of crazy noises. And I remember one time we recorded our entire script and I was chewing gum and I didn't realize it, but you could hear my gum chewing the whole time. And we were like, oh, and we all had to redo it because I was chewing gum. And so yeah, everybody else on my team was not happy. But all of those different things. And I really enjoyed it. And there was a lot that went into it that we learned, and it was a lot of fun.
Although we have a lot of good memories in FFA, we've all faced challenges. So what were the challenges you faced in FFA and how did y'all overcome them?
I think the hardest challenge for me was the ag teacher that I had started out with in FFA leaving, and I was kind of left with a bunch of ag teachers that I didn't know. And so I had become really discouraged, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to carry on in FFA because he was such a huge part of my life. And so for me, it was learning how to kind of cope with that and make friends out of the new ag teachers and know that it's going to be okay, that someone had a big part of your life had moved on to bigger things. And so I just trying to cope with that was hard, but when Mr. Bell came in, he kind of made the same friend out of me that my other ag teacher was for me. So that made it a lot better.
I think for me, the biggest challenge was time management. I was active in athletics and cheer and lots of other things, but then also very active in FFA. And so being able to effectively split that time was always a challenge for me. At the time, we didn't have coaches or even administrators that were very understanding about that because we were just kind of building the FFA program at school back up in the 90s. It had done really well and then kind of tapered off. And then we got this new ag teacher and we were really trying to build it back up, try new things and do a lot more. And so just getting it was just challenging trying to navigate all of that and getting my coaches, the administrators, my other teachers to understand that, yes, I love doing my UIL speaking events. Yes, I love doing cheer and athletics, but this is also something I love and I want to dedicate just as much time to it. And so being able to balance that, I had to start making sure that I kept a calendar, making sure that I really communicated with my teachers, with my coaches, with my ag teachers, and then also, with the district and area things on top of that, we would have our district and area officer meetings that we'd have to coordinate. So I remember having one of those little bitty, like the credit union calendars, and every single day was full. But I just made sure, that I balanced that and really communicated with everybody. So that was a big challenge for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of kids nowadays struggle with the balance between athletics, band, FFA, or like UIL events. So time management is like a huge part in FFA.
Yeah, so who would y'all say had the biggest impact on your FFA journey? Was it like an advisor, a teammate, or a mentor? Lacey, do you want to answer first?
I don't know. I have to think. Like any one person. I think honestly, I would say it's not necessarily one person, but my district officer teams that I was on and my area officer team, like those people became lifelong friends. And we're still 25 years later, we're still Facebook friends. We still keep up with each other's lives and cheer on each other's successes and things. And so I feel like that has been really impactful for me. My ag teacher was fantastic. And actually both of my ag teachers, the one we had my freshman year that retired, and then the next one that came after that and took over, they became like second dads to me at school. My dad was very present in my life, but he was a truck driver. And so when my dad couldn't be at something, I knew my ag teachers always were, And then also even into college, my ag teacher that retired after my freshman year, once a month, he lived in Stephenville, and that's where we went to college. My husband and I both went to Charlton, and he would have my husband and I over for dinner once a month. He and his wife would, and they'd cook for us, and it kind of felt like a little piece of home. So I feel like the entire, just as a whole, the FFA family that I created, through the FFA, that has continued on throughout my life, and that's been really special.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The family that you build in FFA is kind of what pushes you to keep going and to embrace those special moments that you build with them, because those are some moments and memories that you're going to carry on for the rest of your life. FFA has been such an impactful journey for me, and it's a lot of the reason why I chose the career that I chose.
Yeah. So what are you doing now, whether it's school, work, career, and did FFA influence your path? I know, Kennedi, you kind of already said that, so you can kind of start.
So whenever I first joined FFA and I went to that first livestock meeting where they had kind of figured out what kids were going to show what, I specifically remembered that there was a Purina feed sales representative there, and she kind of came up to us and outlined everything that we needed for a basic feed plan to start out. And so she stuck in my mind a lot because I was like, wow, she's really good at her job and she's really convincing. And those products ended up working for me throughout the whole entire time. And so whenever I was going to choose my major for college, I knew that I wanted to do something with livestock because we raise livestock. And so I just remembered her and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like such a fun career for me. So I knew that I wanted to major in animal science, and then the feed kind of came a little bit into my freshman year. And so being a feed sales representative is something that's really important for me, and I don't think that I'd probably veer away from that career because it's been such a dream of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Lacey, what about you?
Well, my career has taken lots of different turns. So I thought when I was in college that I wanted to be a broadcaster and I wanted to go to school for mass communications. And so I started out doing that. That's what I got my associates in. But then decided I wanted to finish up in education. I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to be a coach. So I've taken a lot of twists and turns over the last 20 years in my career and got my master's degrees. And so now I'm the director of special programs for Axtell ISD, but beginning this year, I'm also the director of district communications. So it's kind of come full circle as far as realize my original intent of doing mass communications and journalism. Now I'm getting to kind of touch on that a little bit. And so that's been great. And I feel like, my time in FFA and the contests and all the different things that I did helped. But again, like I spoke about before, I really think moving into school administration, interviewing, doing all of those things over the last 20 years, through my career, the things that I learned in FFA are the things that got me through and helped me get those jobs that were all stepping stones to the places where I've become today.
I know we've already touched on this a little, but how has FFA helped you in your current job or just life in general?
I'd say for FFA helping me, it definitely helped develop my speaking skills. And for the career that I'm going into, communication and knowledgeability is so important for your career. So I think being in agriculture throughout high school really taught me a lot of those things. And my experiences with showing cattle really prepared me for my future career. But not only did it prepare me for my future career, the leadership skills that you learn in FFA are something that you can carry on for life. And it's also learning how to be respectful to people, because that's something that they really push in FFA, and it's something that's not taught in schools anymore. And so that's something that you can carry on and teach your kids, and I think that's really important.
I agree. And I think that, like we've both touched on the leadership and all of those things, the time management, all the different things that we had to do throughout our time in the FFA, and then all of the different leadership and communication skills that the FFA has taught us. But also I feel like with FFA, you learn to have it says in the creed, an inborn fondness for those associations, which even in times of discouragement, is that correct? Am I still right? I cannot deny. And so, you look upon the farming community, and you look upon the community of professionals in the agriculture industry with fondness, because that they're the building blocks to everything else that goes on in society, right? We wouldn't have food. We wouldn't have all of the different plant materials to make all of these clothes and these wonderful things that we have today. Even, the table that we're sitting at, it was built by somebody, and we learned the basics of doing those things in our woodshop classes in school. And so, but somebody had to grow the trees. All of those things, you kind of realize that that's the basic building blocks to life, and you carry that with you too, and you have a greater appreciation for society as a whole, I think, that way.
Okay, so this is more general based than a specific FFA related. You can tie it back, but what's one thing you wish you had known during high school?
One thing that I wish I had known during high school, that it's okay to step out of your comfort zone, and it's okay to not know about something and want to learn about it, because I think a lot of people get scared to do something because they don't know what it is, and so they just step back and say, hey, I don't know what this is, so I'm not going to try it. And I think it's okay to try new things, and I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, and I kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, I wish I would have known that, your friends' opinions really don't matter. The people that you're in high school with and that you're going through, young life like that with, they don't know what they're doing either. So if they think that, what you're doing is dumb or stupid, or they think that you should be spending more time worrying about one thing than you are about the other, they don't have their priorities in line either yet. You're all going through the same thing in life. So I think I wish I wouldn't have listened to friends as much, and maybe taken as much influence from friends, and just really leaned more into my faith in God, and really just prayed about, what is God's direction for my life? Where does He want me spending more time, and where does He want my focus, rather than focusing on what was popular or what my friends were doing or what everyone would think,
I don't think they realize that it's okay to be unique to your true self.
Exactly.
They just want to be a follower instead of a leader, and they don't realize that it's okay to be a leader.
Yeah. High school, I feel like people get really caught in climbing that social ladder, and then you graduate and you start college and it's all fresh and nobody knows where you were on the social ladder when you get to college. Nobody knows. And really nobody cares. They're just going to be friends with you, for your personality, not for what you do and what you accomplished in high school. And so, yeah, I agree. Kennedi, for sure.
That's really great advice. So if you could go back and relive one FFA moment, event, what would it be and why?
Oh, I got this one. The summer of 1998, y'all. You can't, you don't know. You don't know because you weren't alive, all right? But the summer of 1998 was so much fun for me. I mean, you know, we had our high-waisted pants and we had our like cute big hair, but also, no, it was a lot of fun that summer because I had spent the summer before as a district officer, and then I was a district officer again. I was district first vice that summer. And a lot of my friends who I had went to leadership camp with the summer before as district officers, they were area officers that year. So I kind of felt like a little bit like a part of the area officer team, but then I knew all the district officers too. And I got to go to all the different camps, and then state convention that year was in Fort Worth, and it was so much fun. And I just remember my whole summer was consumed with FFA. I remember I had a little boyfriend at the time, and I remember telling him, like, sorry, you're not going to see me all summer because I'm going to be at FFA. So if that's a problem, then you might have to just move on because FFA is my priority this summer. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I look back on that as like one of my most fun times in high school because I was so busy, but everything was productive and it was fun, and, you know, meeting new people and doing a lot of fun things. And so, yeah, that was definitely my favorite memory. And, you know, I was so skinny too. Gosh. Oh, if we could go back to that, you know.
Honestly, I'm going to say the summer of either 2019 or 2022 because I was also consumed with FFA that whole summer, and I remember I was halter breaking a calf over at my ag teacher's house, and then some of the friends that I had made throughout FFA would come over there and hang out with me, and that whole summer he paid us to paint his fence. And so we spent the whole summer out there every day painting his fence, and then we'd go swim in the pond. And then he'd bring us Sonic drinks, and then we'd paint the fence a little more. And then I had CLC and ALC that summer too, and I think those memories from there are just some that I'm never going to forget because that was just such an awesome experience. And then we had state convention, and that was so much fun. I really enjoyed that summer too.
Yeah, and notice wise words from the old lady here. We didn't say anything about like any one award that we got or anything like that. It really was about the experiences that we had and the people that impacted us along the way. I think as you get farther and farther removed from high school, you won't remember, did I win that? Did I go to area? I think we went to state. Did we? Like that'll, over the years, all of that will fade. But those friendships you made, the memories that you made, all of those things will stick with you.
So, Lacy, this question is just for you. So, as a parent, what advice would you give to parents who don't know anything about the FFA and might have a child that is interested?
Oh, I tell everyone, like, even if your child is not interested in agriculture, animals, any of that whatsoever, like, I still highly, highly recommend that they take the ag classes and that they join the FFA, because for me, that wasn't something that I was, it was something that my family did because we lived on a ranch, but it wasn't something I was interested in, but I took so much away from it that's beyond maybe what I think, I wouldn't necessarily say society, but like the preconceived notions of what FFA is all about. You know, I think people think about FFA and they just think, oh, just showing animals and welding and that kind of thing. But it's so much more than that, and there really is something for everybody. So even if you think it's not something you're going to be interested in, you can always find something that you are interested in the FFA.
All right, Kennedi, as a recent graduate, how would you promote the FFA to a student that might be interested in joining?
So I'm going to say about the same thing as Lacy. I think it's really important for others to know that there's so much more to to FFA than just agriculture, and that you don't have to come from an agricultural background to be successful in an FFA chapter. And so also for students to know that if they want to do a contest that they know nothing about, it's okay to do it. That's what your ag teachers are for. They're there to push you and to teach you how to do the hard things in life.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there are so many new contests and new things. I mean, I saw where a kid from our chapter was doing an auctioneering thing like this weekend. And I mean, like there's so many neat ways to get plugged in. And like Kennedi said, like if you see something new or interesting that you want to do or research, like check it out, you know, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
All right, we have a little for fun quick fire round. This one's for Kennedi. Favorite ag class?
Animal production.
Beaches or mountains?
Mountains.
Official dress or show clothes?
Show clothes.
All right. Favorite FFA contest?
Chapter conducting.
Okay, Lacey, these are yours. So hills or flats?
Heels.
LDEs or CDEs?
LDEs.
Goats or sheep?
Goats.
And then coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. So this is a more serious question. So what's something about you now that your high school self wouldn't believe?
I'm in a sorority.
What?
Look at you, girl.
My high school self would have never believed that I was in a sorority because in high school I said that I would never be in one.
That I am living and working back in Axtell, Texas, because high school me thought that I was going to move to New York City and be the next Barbara Walters and be on 2020. And that is not what life had in the cards for me at all.
Wow. I did not know you were in a sorority.
I am.
All right, we have some final thoughts. So, how can alumni like yourselves stay involved and support current FFA members?
So I know a way for me that I stay involved is Mr. Bell invites me back to do showmanship clinics for the incoming cattle showmen, and I think that's a way to really help them out and show my skills that I learned throughout my time in FFA. And I think just doing things like being on this podcast is kind of giving them our testimony and our time throughout FFA and showing them that it's okay to not know what you're doing. And also, when you move to college, there's actually agricultural sororities and agricultural fraternities. That's what I'm in. I'm in an agricultural sorority. So every year we go to classrooms and teach kids about agriculture and try and get them prepared for FFA and kind of get them to know what agriculture is, because a lot of people simply just don't know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like Kennedi said, as far as just like kind of raising awareness too and letting people know, because even if you're in a career that has nothing to do with the FFA, but you are an FFA alumni, you know, like I was Kennedi's cheer coach in high school. And when I told them it was their senior year, and when I told them that I was an area officer, they were like, what? Because now I don't do anything necessarily with the FFA, but I'm still a big supporter, you know, of the FFA. And I think that you can, you know, just talk about your time, talk about the things that you learned conversationally with people. But then also, you know, if you don't work around the schools, you don't, you know, maybe you don't have kids in school anymore or things like that, you can still always give to agricultural based scholarships and different things like that. There are so many ways to support agriculture, whether it's monetary or just giving your time and serving in the community and doing things like that, helping out and just supporting when you can.
And I think it's important for us as alumni to advocate for the future of agriculture, because a lot of people hate on the agricultural industry because they just simply don't know. They don't understand how their food got to them. And so explaining the process helps them understand a lot better, and maybe they won't hate on it so much.
And I think so many people feel like because of AI and automation and robotics that the agriculture industry is dying out. And and, you know, that farmers aren't necessarily needed anymore, but they are, just in different ways. I think the farming profession is evolving. I think agriculture as a whole is evolving. It's becoming more tech-oriented, just like everything else is in this world. And it's not dying out. It's just evolving and changing, and the roles are changing. And we in agriculture need people from all different areas of expertise and walks of life to join together to really help us to be able to have a sustainable, you know, society. And agriculture is such a huge part of that.
So what would y'all say being an Axtell FFA alumni means to you today?
I mean, I'd say it means everything to me. I mean, my whole future career is based off of my time throughout FFA and everything that I've gotten in college and what brought me into college. I mean, being able to be in a sorority because of all the things that I learned in FFA, being able to be as successful as I am in college and keep my grades up because of everything that I learned in FFA. And those leadership roles that I was in really just helped me work my way up to the top.
Gosh, and for me, you know, I'm just so proud of how far our FFA chapter has come over the years, because that year, the old ag teacher and I, you know, we joked that I was his first ag student because it was just me. I was the only one that was active and involved in anything the year before he came. And then when he came, things started building. And over the years, you know, with all of our ag teachers, it's built and it's grown and it's evolved so much. And I don't know how many FFA members we have now, but we only had a handful back then, you know, and we only competed in a handful of contests. And now there are so many contests, and we have so many officers, and we have so many people and so many kids just doing wonderful leadership things through the FFA and pursuing their passions through the FFA. And for me, you know, over 20 years out now, it makes me so proud to see how far they've come. So yeah, my FFA jacket hangs in a closet somewhere, and I couldn't get into it anymore if I tried, you know, but I look back at that time with just so much reverence, and I look forward to the future of Axtell FFA with so much pride and expectation for amazing things.
It's crazy how we went from only one member going to state convention to now, like, what, 10 or
14?
more?
16 this year?
16 going to state convention. That's
And I think, you know, back then we just did like show of hands, who wants to go? And then everybody would like load up in cars and we'd just all follow each other because we didn't have school vans back then. And so now if you did that and just said, who all wants to go, y'all would have 50 people going to state convention. Now it kind of has to be more selective and more of a process. And, you know, I mean, that's just the way it goes because, I mean, you can't pay for all those people to go. But it's so cool that there are so many people that want to do it now that you have to kind of have a process of elimination, where before it was just like, yeah, you want to come, bring your mama, load up, you know, and it's not like that anymore. So it's pretty awesome to see.
All right. It's now time for the Barnyard Banter Ag Report. If you didn't know it already, it is hot outside, and many of our listeners have started to notice that their gardens are starting to burn up. Peyton, as our recent crop specialist, what can be done and what is next for these gardeners?
Not much can be done to preserve those plants that are starting to dwindle away. However, we are about the time of year that fall gardens need to be planted. This is a great way to get another round of harvest in before the first frost. According to an AgriLife Extension article, fall crops generally do better when started from transplants than from seed. Transplants should always be used for growing tomatoes and peppers. The trick to establishing healthy transplants during late summer is to make sure they have plenty of water. Transplants in peat pots or cell packs with restricted root zones require at least 2 weeks for their root systems to enlarge enough to support active plant growth. Until that time, they may need to be watered every day or the plants will be stunted or even die. However, too much water is just as harmful as not enough. Soaking wet soil will cause root rotting and subsequent stunting or death. So check the soil moisture by filling the soil before applying water. If the soil balls together, it still has enough water. If not, apply water. Buy the largest transplants possible. Even though larger transplants cost more, their root systems will spread faster and the plants will produce more fruit sooner. Or grow your own large transplants by planting small ones in potting soil and evenly mixing in slow-release fertilizer pellets such as Osmocote. Add a water-soluble fertilizer to the irrigation water and place the plants in full sun with shade after 3 p.m. Keep the transplants moist, but don't overwater them. If you are interested in more information, we have linked the article below from the AgriLife Extension. So we have one final question for you. What advice would you give to current FFA members at Axtell?
Just enjoy it and have as much fun as you can during that time because, you're only going to go through this time in your life once. Don't be afraid to join a new team, to try something new, to step out of your comfort zone, and just make as many friends and connections as possible because you'll carry those with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, soak in those moments because you're going to miss them when you go off to college and you're not with your high school friends anymore. And also, take it seriously. Take all those leadership skills that you learned in that time management and all your things that you can take with you to college. Really embrace those because you don't realize how important they are until you're moving on to your big girl job.
All right, lastly, how can our listeners contact you if they have any questions or just want more information?
If you need more information from me, you can contact me through Facebook at Kennedi Gordon or under LinkedIn at Kennedi Gordon.
Okay, I'm on Facebook. I am Lacy Hollingsworth on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Hollywood Mom, HOLLIWOOD Mom. And I am, you can always just contact me through the school because I live there. I'm always there.
All right, Payne, how can our listeners get involved or even suggest topics they want to hear?
If you're looking to get involved with our podcast, you can follow us on Spotify or YouTube. And if you want to suggest any topics or have any potential guests you want to see, you can message us on our Instagram page
at Barnyard Banter Podcast.
And it is linked below.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast.
We are excited about our upcoming podcast that will air on the first and third Mondays of every month.
We'll see you on the next episode. Peace, love, ag.